This might hurt.
Adult Swim and Toonami played a very minimal role in my childhood, mainly because I was too scared to watch it because it had the word adult in it. But one night, 14-year-old me decided it was time to grow up and become the mature man that I was destined to be. So after watching this snooze fest, the greatest show of all time, the best show of all time, this dude pops up on screen, and immediately I knew that whatever they had coming up next was gonna change my life. I had no idea what anime was back then. All I knew was that the shows on Toonami were way different from Adult Swim. The art style, the music, the animation, it all had this level of polish that scratched every single itch in my little teenage boy brain. I got on my computer, I started looking for some more anime, and I come across one of the coolest shows I have ever seen to this day. Afro Samurai. It didn't air on Adult Swim in the US, so I had to legally and ethically acquire this media. And bro, this wasn't just a regular Saturday night cartoon. This was like walking through an art museum. Okay, hold on. Before we get into the video, I just had to point this out. Look at this character right here. His name is Ninja. He is voiced by Samuel L. Jackson though, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's talk about
comatose from my illa flow. It caused an overdose cause I'm OD. All my shit is dope. I got a boat.
There are two very coveted items in this world: the number 2 and the number 1 headbands. Whoever has the number 1 is seen as the god of this world, and it's said to grant the person who wears it immeasurable strength, knowledge, and even immortality. The only person who is able to even challenge them is the number 2. Afro's father had the number 1, and he was killed by the gunslinger Justice. He left Afro with his father's severed head and the curse of the number 2 headband, which is being hunted non-stop by everyone who wants a chance to become God. A life of solitude, sacrifice, and suffering. Afro is one of those characters that just makes you wonder what he had to go through to get this cool. From his completely impractical hairstyle to him smoking tree. This man says like 100 words total throughout the entire show. But whenever he's on screen, you know something completely ridiculous is about to happen. Afro is a force of nature, a storm that blows through and wreaks havoc on anyone who dares to get in his way. But as cool and level-headed as Afro seems to be on the outside, he does have a more reactive and emotional side to him. He manifested that emotional side as something separate from himself, which is Ninja. He's our way of seeing into Afro's mind, his fears, doubts, and desires. This is Afro's humanity. Because even though he's subjected to this life of constant fighting, cutting down countless people that try to stop him from reaching his goal, Afro is still human, at least for now. Ironically, one of the few times that Afro speaks throughout the entire show is to tell this emotional side of him to shut up. Since Afro is the number 2, there aren't that many people that he can trust. A lot of samurai want a chance to get that power, so he has to constantly move forward, not getting too close to anyone, because eventually someone's sense of pride or greed will reach the number 2, and blood will be shed. That's Afro's curse, and every day he has a choice to make: to roll over and die and allow his father's legacy to end here, or to fight and become the number 1, reclaiming his honor and sitting at the top of the world. The destination is clear, but the journey certainly won't be easy. After his father's death, young Afro wandered around with no plan, just holding his dad's severed head with the number 2 headband. Freaky. He runs into some thugs who are looking for the headband, and that didn't end well for Afro. They left him there to die, taking the number 2 headband with them. Afro was saved by some kids from the local orphanage who took him in and trained him to defend himself. It wasn't just training though. These people became Afro's family, teaching him the importance of having people that love you and would do anything for you, even if that meant dying so that you could reach your goal. As Afro grew stronger, so did his thirst for revenge. He asked his sensei about the headband, but he demanded that Afro stop thinking about things like that. Killing for revenge leads you down a never-ending path of destruction, so you should only use your blade to protect yourself and your loved ones. Even though Afro respected his teacher, he couldn't let go of what happened to him. He couldn't forget about his father. He heard that someone around the area had the number 2 headband, so he went out at night in search of it. Afro ends his search by asking his teacher if he was the number 2. The truth was right under his nose. Afro's teacher had the headband, and he wanted to hide it to end this cycle of revenge. But Afro wants to kill the number 1 more than anything, which means in order for him to move forward, he must sever this bond. Afro's teacher tells him the meeting spot where they will fight to the death for the number 2. But a concrete bridge doesn't burn easily. All of Afro's peers come out to fight to protect each other, thinking that Afro and their teacher got ambushed. They fought hard, but all of the students end up getting cut down. And Afro, watching his family die in front of him once again, is filled with rage, remembering his father's final moments. So he kills his sensei and becomes the number 2. Remember when I said the number 2 is cursed? That's not an exaggeration. As long as Afro is wearing that headband, he will never be able to trust anyone ever again. So after getting shot by an RPG and left for dead under a bridge, he's saved by a woman named Okiku. She nurses him back to health, prepares some of his favorite meals from his childhood, and lets him stay for as long as he needs. After a few nights, Afro's ready to head back out, and Okiku asks him to stay for one more night and watch the fireworks with her. After a night of very passionate adult activities that would get my entire channel taken down if I showed you, she fails to assassinate him and reveals her hidden agenda. Not only was she siphoning his memories in his sleep so some dudes can make a robot with all of Afro's abilities, it turns out Okiku is actually Otsuru, the girl who found and rescued Afro when they were kids and grew up with him. She was left for dead during Afro's fight for the number 2, but was brought in by the MT7 and given a new purpose for living. She was indebted to them and owed them her life, but Afro, he had her heart. So after she revealed this information and failed to follow through with the plan, Otsuru was killed for betraying the MT7. Afro holds Otsuru one last time as the entire building burns to the ground around them, and he leaves without another word, keeping her pick in his hair as something to remember her by. You would think that's where it ends, right? Afro watches another loved one die because of the number 2 headband. He finally snaps, gets the number 1, and the story wraps up nicely with nobody else getting hurt. No, of course not. It actually gets much worse. After tearing apart the entire MT7 clan, Afro is almost at the summit, and lo and behold, he's once again faced with an old friend. Gino grew up with Afro and Otsuru in the orphanage and trained with Afro in the dojo. He was always determined to protect his loved ones no matter what, so he carried 2 swords, one to attack and one to defend. But just like Otsuru, he was indebted to the MT7 after being saved by them the day that Afro, the difference being he was in a way worse condition, barely hanging on to his life. The MT7 found a way to bring him back, give him a new life and a new name. Gino is now Kuma, the cyborg killing machine, fueled by his hate for Afro's traitorous actions, wearing a mask resembling Otsuru's teddy bear. Kuma is ready to fight Afro to the death for the number 2 headband, not to become the number 1, but to finally get his revenge on the man who had his entire family killed. Afro can't bring himself to fight Gino. He'll cut down as many people as it takes to reach his goal, but not him. While Afro's running, memories of him and Gino growing up and fighting alongside each other, sharing their dreams for the future, all of this replays in his mind. Kuma finally backs Afro into a corner and prepares to finish him off. With tears streaming down his face, he delivers the final blow to the man he once considered a brother, but he failed to cut him, and Afro's ego, Ninja, was killed instead, leaving Afro alone to cut this final thread of his past and continue to move forward. Afro and Kuma's battle continues, ending in Afro's bittersweet victory. Without another word, the endless trail of blood led Afro to his final destination, the summit of Mount Shumi, where there's only one thing left to do.
What took you so long, kid?
Hey man, I can't give y'all the whole story. You gotta watch Afro Samurai. And if you've seen it already, go watch it again. This anime has so much style, bro. The music is fire. The animation is crazy. Like, I don't know how they did it, but they was cooking in there. I can't forget about my people on Patreon this month. Gwen, Biomon, Jaslyn, Jonathan, and Teo. Thank you for supporting me over there on Patreon. Since you watched this video all the way to the end, give me a sword emoji in the comments so I know that yeah. Subscribe to hear me talk about your next favorite anime, and with that, I'm out of here.